It's time for
DodgerHeads.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Bruce Kuntz, here to celebrate the Dodgers taking home the National League West title. It is their fourth consecutive divisional title, 12th in the last 13 years, 40th all-time in franchise history. Bruce, it felt inevitable a long time ago. Then it felt very evitable, I guess is the word. And now they finally do it and seal up the thing that they definitely deserve.
What a roller coaster this has been. And I, for one, am very thankful that this final weekend can be used for looking ahead on the calendar and not biting our nails all the time. I can enjoy Clayton Kershaw's final start without worrying about the playoff implications of it. I'm glad this is out of the way. And I will not be shy to admit over this last month, there have been many times that I wasn't sure if this day would come. So I think even though this is the 12th time in the last 13 years the Dodgers have clinched the division, there's something special about this one just because of how crazy this road has felt this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there were times when we would come on these shows and it felt like, is this really going to happen? Like the lead would get smaller and smaller and smaller to the San Diego Padres. And it was like, okay, here we go. This is finally when it breaks, and 12 and 13 years is no more and all that. And yet when the Dodgers needed wins, Bruce, over the last week and a half, San Francisco comes in. They're the hottest team in Major League Baseball, and the Dodgers take 5 out of 7 from them. The Diamondbacks, hottest team in baseball, chasing a postseason spot. The Dodgers take 2 out of 3 and realistically should have had all 3 if not for a total bullpen collapse in game 1 of this series. And so, yes, they've sort of survived in some ways, Bruce, but in a weird way over the last 10 days, it feels like, yes, with the bullpen being a mess, they've actually done the job they've needed to do and against teams that were playing for something.
And it really speaks to how well that a lot of the team has played. Like, you can talk about the offense and the starting pitching. They've played so well that they've set the team up where even though there still have been a few bullpen collapses, and that's something I'm sure we'll get to a lot on this show, like you said, it's still the overall body of work here down the stretch has been very good, and it's been good enough to wrap up this division. It's not like the Padres have lost every game they've played. So the Dodgers have had to do their part, and they've done it. And now, like I said, I'm glad we'll go into this final weekend not having to worry about it. And it definitely speaks to the starting pitching, the offense are the two that I really think have locked this up over this last stretch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As always, we appreciate everybody who's hopping in live with us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. We know we're doing an early show, 3:35 p.m. now, as we do this live because the Dodgers have clinched. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be listening after the fact via podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, or on YouTube. So we appreciate all of you for hopping in. And even if you can't celebrate with us in the live comments, go ahead and celebrate with us in the comments below on YouTube. Lots to get to here. You mentioned the offensive explosion. Ohtani homer, Pages homer, 2 from Freddie Freeman, a guy who maybe it looked like wasn't going to be at his best heading into the postseason. Good get-right day for him. And then a long conversation incoming about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, because some of the numbers on this guy and what he has done this season have been fantastic. So lots to break down. Of course, we're going to get more reaction from the Dodgers clubhouse. Our guy Matthew Moreno hopefully has a tarp over his head. Hopefully he's got some waterproof boots on, as I'm sure he is knee-deep in champagne and Budweiser right now. It's the most beautiful place in the world to be. Do you think Matt is a goggles guy or a no-goggles guy, Bruce?
Oh, man, that I know I would be a no-goggles guy if I was there, so I'm hoping that that's what Matt is doing too.
Yeah, look, if Kershaw's going no goggles because he wants to feel the burn, I think you should dress appropriate. Let's just say dress accordingly. Excuse me. So we'll get updates from Matt as the day goes on. Robert Underwood with the super chat. We are division champs. Congrats. Complete team win, 16-0 from here on out. Hopefully the Dodgers can get this thing done. That would be sweet. Is it really 16 games that they would have to win? 5 It's 13, right? 13-0, 4 in the World Series, 4 in the CS, 3 in the DS, and then 2 in the wild card. How about that?
Two wild
Reno always says
and,
I didn't come here to do math. I think it's 13, right?
It would be 5
3,
from
4,
wild
4?
card to DS, then 4. Yeah, 13.
There we go. Look at me doing math on the fly. Robert with the other super chat. Shohei, low pitch. Me? No. Shohei, wait. Oh, hell yes. Shohei, the pitch he hit out into the pool. I yelled at everybody in my house. I'm like, Kate, get over here. You need to see where this pitch was thrown and where Shohei Ohtani just hit it. I was glad they replayed it, and Jessica Mendoza had the exact same reaction. Absolutely insane, the power that this guy has.
Just otherworldly Ohtani things. It's not like it's an unregular occurrence for stuff like that to happen, but you have to stay grounded and appreciate it every single time it does, because this is one of those things that you look at and you just say, there are not very many human beings that have ever walked the earth that would be capable of hitting that ball out as far as he did.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, the 16-0, our apologies. That includes the Seattle series. So 3 in Seattle and then 13 in the postseason. That's how you get to 16. So
I'm with it.
There you go. There we go. 16-0. By the way, bought tickets to Friday's game, sold tickets to Friday's game. So we placed our bet on Kershaw pitching Friday. It did not come through. There's an outside chance I make it to Sunday's game where he is expected to start. So we will see. There we go. Robert saying I'm talking about the 3 in Seattle also. Yeah. So again, Dodgers win this game 8-0. Freeman 2 homers, Pages and Ohtani all homer in this one. They started out early in the top of the second on this one. Home runs from Freeman and Pages. They load the bases on a little bit of a defensive miscue from Perdomo. And then after Ohtani strikes out with the bases loaded, Mookie Betts does what Mookie Betts has continued to do. He has the highest batting average on the team, I believe I saw over the last month and a half. 2-run single from him, and then a pair of 2-run homers from Ohtani and Freddie Freeman put this one on ice. Bruce, be honest with me. 4-0, 6-0, and 8-0. At which point did you become confident?
6-0.
Okay, 6. You felt good at 6?
I did. I think the 4, I already was starting to feel like, okay, this is probably going to be a win, but there's nothing that's certain. And then when it went to 6, then I kind of felt there's no way that this could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, I would say 6. We moved into I would say 4 was like a 50-50 proposition if the Dodgers won. 6 felt like maybe we're up to 65%, and then 8 felt like 90%. So there you go. I mean, Tanner Scott, 1-2-3 inning. Will Klein gets out of it. Bonda, I wasn't exactly convinced Anthony Bonda was still alive. I was like, I mean, he must have lost a limb at some point in the last week. That's the only possible explanation for why the Dodgers refused to use him. But apparently all limbs still attached, tattoos intact. So Bonda gets in that game as well. Let's talk pitching real quick because we need to talk about Yamamoto. Then we'll do more thoughts on just big picture Dodgers season. Yamamoto today, 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. In the month of September, Bruce, he now has a .67 ERA over his last 27 innings pitched. This will be his final regular season start. Expected to start, presumably, I guess it would be game 3 of the wild card series if necessary. Game 1 of the NLDS if they were to sweep the wild card. I suppose there's a world where we don't see him again this year, although none of us are rooting for that because that would mean the Dodgers get swept in the wild card series. But I don't know. I don't have much really to add about how good this guy is because he's one of the 5 best starting pitchers in all of Major League Baseball right now.
He's ridiculous. I think that we're talking about a rotation that is world-class and all-time class in terms of how good it is going into the postseason. I don't remember having a rotation this good ever. No. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto has still managed to separate himself from the group in terms of how much confidence you can have handing the ball to him any night. I think he's been the Dodger ace this full year. He's the guy that's been healthy the entire way. He's taken the ball and done a good job this entire year. And then this last stretch has been where he's really separated himself, where it feels like when it's Yamamoto bump day, it feels like you're sending Paul Skeens to the mound. It feels like you're sending Tarek Skubal. Like it's that kind of level of the Dodgers have to have the better guy when it's Yamamoto on the lineup card. I don't care who else is pitching for the other team.
I put this stat out on social media. It sounds stupid. Like it sounds like this can't possibly be true. In 30 starts this year, you are more likely to get a 0 or 1 earned run game from Yamamoto than 2 or more. 17 out of 30 times he took the mound, it was a shutout 10 times and 1 run 7 times. Like that's a stupid number. 17 out of 30 he allowed 1 run or fewer. And I mean, you could do the math. He's got to be averaging 6+ innings in all of those starts as well. We know what the Dodgers offense did with him on the mound, but 17 out of 30, 1 or 0 runs, that's ridiculous.
It's complete control. When it's Yamamoto bump day, he goes out there and he's in complete control of the entire operation, and you can feel it all the way through. There was a very slight bump that he hit that included like that angel start, where that really felt like one of the only times in his entire tenure as a Dodger where he wasn't in command of everything going on all the time. And then I'm glad that he's gotten back to now he's the best that he's been since he got over here. And I think that his ceiling is best pitcher in baseball, and he's dang near that right now.
Yeah, I love GI says, I thought Jeff was talking about the number of runs we scored while Yamamoto was pitching. That might be 25 out of 30 with 0 or 1 run scored with him on the mound. But yeah, I mean, look, 200 strikeouts for him. They said that's the first time since Walker Buehler. The irony is, you said, like, you know, it's like Paul Skeens. The irony is he legitimately might be the 3rd best pitcher on the Dodgers. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful to Yamamoto. Ohtani has the lowest FIP of any pitcher in Major League Baseball this season. Like, that's like, take away all of the batted ball luck. Essentially, what can a pitcher control and how does he compare? Ohtani's best in all of Major League Baseball. Blake Snell, like, we've seen what he does, the strikeout numbers, the run prevention. So if it were me, I think I don't know. They're all tied. I would just have these 3 guys tied, but the Dodgers currently have Yamamoto lined up 3rd, presumably in this group for the wild card series, which is insane to say about a guy who's going to finish like 3rd, top 3 in the Cy Young voting. It's
crazy. Like, it's hard to even put it into your brain and understand how good that is. I would have a hard time thinking about what playoff rotation. Obviously, the wild card series hasn't been a thing for very long, but what playoff rotation all time is easily better than that? Ohtani, Snell, Yamamoto. I don't know for sure that there would be one.
Yeah, and I keep saying this. We have an interview I did with Lance Brodsdowski today that'll be posting tomorrow talking about Roki Sasaki. It's really good. But one of the things I mentioned to him, the only time I can remember, and I'm older than you, so I don't know how old you were when this happened, but I remember when the Phillies entered the playoffs with Cole Hamels, Roy Halladay, and Cliff Lee, and all 3 of those dudes were like, could win the Cy Young type pitchers in that season. Now, Dodger fans, don't Google how that season ended for the Phillies and what round they lost in and how quickly, because let's hope our story is different. But that's the only time I remember going in and thinking, like, how would you even beat this team 3 times? Like, how would you're lucky if you beat one of these 3 guys, let alone 2 of the 3 guys. And again, the Dodgers, you could make a case, kind of go 4 deep in that category right now. And oh, by the way, Emmett Sheehan, I put this stat when I was talking to Lance Brodsdowski. I know he's not going to start games. His last 5 starts, number 1 in expected ERA in all of Major League Baseball, 8th in ERA, 3rd in FIP, 3rd in strikeouts per 9. So, I mean, I'm just saying that's your number 6 starter we're talking about. Sheehan would be in every postseason rotation other than the Dodgers right now, and probably in their top 3, and he's 6th for LA.
Yeah. This rotation was built with a bunch of guys that you didn't know for sure if they were going to be healthy, and the Dodgers just collected aces and knew that they'd probably have at least 2 of them going into October. Somehow it's managed that the rotation is the healthiest that I can remember it being heading into the playoffs, and they've got pretty much everybody. So like you said, the fact that Tyler Glasnow isn't one of those guys that's going to start in the wild card series is crazy, because he'd be an ace for more than half the league.
Yeah.
And there's just something to be said about most teams have their one guy, you know, and you can pencil him in for game 1. Last year for the Tigers in the playoffs, the whole playoff approach was built around when can Tarek School will pitch, trying to get as many starts out of him in the playoffs, because those are the games they feel like they have a good chance to win. And for the Dodgers, it's every single game. So we know the bullpen has struggled, that we're going to get to it. It's not like that this team is flawless, but it's hard to quantify exactly how valuable it is to have the level of starting pitching talent they have going into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I sent a text out to a few folks and said, hey, if you want to hop in and celebrate, you're welcome to. We've got our first one here, none other than Anthony Witrado popping in to celebrate. Anthony, I don't know if you heard this. Dodgers good at baseball, NL West champs, rinse, repeat the last, basically all of Bruce's life, I think, based on, you know, where he's at in life.
Good at baseball. I heard they weren't even going to make the playoffs this year.
That's what I was told. So we talk people off a ledge on this show all the time. I'm not at 90 wins. Right? It's not 100, but look, they won the NL West. All right, that's something to celebrate, right, Anthony?
Yeah. 90 wins to clinch the division in the final week of the season. and we were supposed to be scared of the Padres.
Yeah. Hey, look, I got one guy in my life who's a Padres fan, and he's been texting me for the last like week and a half or so. I got a text a couple days ago that was 1.5 games ? And yeah, let's just say there was a text. There was a gift that was sent his way this afternoon. He didn't even know they were playing. He was like, "Oh yeah, Dodgers win tonight. It's over." I was like, "Buddy, 8-0, game over. Enjoy." No, guess you're gonna have to get ready for that wild card banner to go up on the wall next to the 2024 one down in San Diego.
Oh yeah, they're gonna hang it. Don't worry, yeah, they'll hang it.
I believe it. I believe it. What's the like? How do you celebrate something like this, Anthony? Because nobody's denying that this is a season of disappointment relative to expectations, and yet, as I say on this show all the time, making the playoffs, winning the division is something to be celebrated. Like when most organizations have a down year, Anthony, it doesn't end with 90 wins and a divisional title. So yes, right, it's disappointing, but it's not disappointing like the Braves entirely missing the playoffs. It's not disappointing like the Padres and some of the collapses we've seen from them. And so there's a level of excitement and celebration mixed with jobs not done, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it feels like a Kobe situation, right? Jobs not done.
Yeah.
Then you celebrate this stuff because you should. The season is so long, and these guys earned it, for as much as maybe they didn't live up to expectations that we had for them in like March. It's a grind, it's a struggle. They had a bunch of ups and downs this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody at the end of this says, this might be the most fulfilling one we've had in a while.
Yeah.
And so that's all great. They deserve to be able to celebrate this one. But I think this organization and this window that they're in, they are of the mentality of jobs not done.
Yeah.
We have 13 more wins to go. Let's go get those.
Yeah.
And so I think they all have that understanding. And I think they really started to take that mentality last year when they sort of hunkered down in that week before the first game of the playoffs, where between the season ending and the first game, they don't have that luxury this season. They're gonna have to play in the wild card series, but I think that mentality is going to be the same. I listened to a little bit of Dave's speech in the clubhouse after the game, and he basically said, keep that effing edge for 5 more weeks now.
Yeah, so, I was gonna say, hopefully no kids around. My kids were around when that one went on, and there was some language.
The AirPods in.
Smart man. So we got a super chat from Laura here. Woohoo! Job's not finished. Is job finished? What are your expectations, Bruce, moving forward for this team? We know it's disappointing. We know they're not getting a bye, but what are your expectations?
I'm kind of in a space that I want to go into the playoffs and kind of just see what happens. They got there in a really tough year where the amount of adversity the Dodgers face compared to expectation, like you said, every other organization in baseball would be watching the playoffs from the couch right now with how much the Dodgers have been through this year. And you still can make an argument that they have the best on paper roster in the league going into the playoffs, especially with what we're talking about with the starting rotation. There's no reason to feel like that the Dodgers are a first round boot. I mean, it could happen. It always could happen in baseball, but there's no reason to feel like that's something to bank on. I think that, like you guys are saying, like for the reaction to winning the division, it's important to be able to recognize these kind of things as a goal accomplished, because you have to accomplish minor goals in order to reach the major goal. And it kind of keeps you sane to be able to celebrate something like this. But the Dodger reaction, the speech they give in the clubhouse, the reaction that they're having right now, it's different than other teams. And they look like Seattle clinching the AL West the other day. Like that's a practical World Series type celebration. And I'm not hating on it at all, but just to say the Dodgers tone that down, enjoy this, and then they shift their gears by midnight tonight towards the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll be honest, flight up to Seattle, it might not be my midnight tonight, Bruce, that the things get shifted. I would say by about 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, things might be shifting there. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm with you, Anthony. This is interesting because I looked this up. Today was the first time all season that I saw this. The Dodgers are not the World Series favorites right now. It's actually the Phillies, and surprising to me, the number 2 team on that list is the Seattle Mariners. Now, the added caveat is that both of those teams don't have to play in the wild card. So if the Dodgers advance through the wild card round, I would put large amounts of money that the Dodgers will then be the favorites to go on and win the World Series once it's a level playing field. But it does go to show, Anthony, that while there are expectations, they're still the third favorite to win the World Series, which is crazy when you think they're favored ahead of two teams that don't have to play an extra round in the postseason, which goes to show how impressive they are. But it also says there's a road ahead of them that might be a little more uphill than expected.
No, for sure. That wild card is a total crapshoot. I mean, this isn't just the Dodgers. Every team has gone through this season where you lose a series to the Pirates, or you lose a series to the Rockies, or you lose a series to the A's. That stuff happens. And in the 3-game series, it can happen, in the blink of an eye. I would imagine print out those odds, post them in the clubhouse, leave them there all season or all postseason. Because I would imagine if they win game 1 of the wild card series, those odds are going to shift.
Yeah.
Or at least start to. And then, like you said, if they can get into the NLDS, then I think they sort of reshuffle that in Vegas. Because I still fully believe, with all their flaws, this roster right now, if it goes in healthy, if no one steps on any rakes, or drops any bowling balls on their toes or anything like that, they're the best. They're the most talented roster, and they have the best rotation by far.
Yeah.
Of any team in the playoffs, both leagues. With that said, they got to get through the wild card round, and that's not a walk in the park, because 1 or 2 bad breaks over the course of 3 games, and your season might be over.
Yeah, this Arizona series we just watched is a pretty good proxy for what a wild card series is going to feel like, because you've got a team playing for its life in Arizona, and you've got a Dodgers team that kind of needed to get a couple wins under their belt after the Padres sort of putting the pressure on them. And look what happens. Like game 1, the bullpen collapses and they lose. And game 2, they're like on the verge at multiple times of losing that game as well. And if this was a wild card series, first of all, you go down 1-0 and need to win 2 in a row, which they do. But secondly, Bruce, you're like a pitch away throughout game 2 from this thing going sideways. And that's what's in play. Yes, all 3 games will be at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers are going to have, to say a massive pitching advantage, if it is the Mets, who's projected currently, is like an understatement of the year. The Mets have guys you've never heard of that are going to be starting these games against them. But it's baseball. Like if the offense goes out and scores 3 runs, none of us are going to feel great, right? If a warning track fly ball catches 8 miles an hour of wind and it becomes a second row home run, things can change pretty quickly. And so to me, Bruce, that's what gives me the most pause, is not like this team and the bullpen. It's just the format of the postseason.
100%. And that's why I think over this last month, my biggest priority for the Dodgers was, first win the division. Yeah. But I was looking just as much at the Phillies as I was looking at the Padres, because I really wanted that 2 seed. Avoiding the wild card series was a huge goal that they did not manage to accomplish. Getting in the playoffs means you're in the dance and you see what happens, but it's a huge deal to have to play this best of 3. I've always felt like that for the Dodgers, even before this wild card round was introduced, I hated the NLDS for that reason, that it felt like not enough games to determine a true winner. And so you bring that down to 3, and that's even more exaggerated. Like you just said, Anthony, any baseball team can go out and take 2 of 3 from any baseball team at any given time. That's just the nature of the sport. So it's unfortunate that we're going in, and you kind of have to, at least I'm accepting, it doesn't make it feel any better if the Dodgers were to lose the wild card round, but you kind of have to accept that the circumstances say that they're kind of at the whim of the sport, at least a little bit, and they're not going to approach it that way. It's not going to feel that way if they were to lose. Not going to feel that way even if they do win. But it's still it's something to know going in, that it's tough to predict what happens in that sort of a series.
Yeah. We all know starting pitching, Anthony, is not going to be the concern. I know you need to hop off here in just a couple of minutes. Offensively, any concerns with where this group is at? Obviously, we don't know the status of Will Smith. It doesn't look promising that he's going to be a contributor in the wild card series. It's possible, probably on the roster, but I would say it seems unlikely he's the starting catcher for three games in this series. Freddie gets back today. Teoscar looks good. Muncy still feels like a question mark to me. Yeah. And then you go up and down the lineup. Edmund, 3-hit game the other day. We know Conforto's been playing better over the last month of the season. So we'll talk bullpen in a second. But real quick, starting pitching, 10 out of 10 confidence level. Offensively, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in this group?
I got him at like a 7.5-ish.
Okay.
I think enough guys are playing well. Mookie had a little small dip for about a week there, and it looks like the last 2 games he's found that line drive swing again. Ohtani's going to be Ohtani, even if people want to complain that he's not clutch or something like that, he's fine. Freddie, that was really good to see from him. Really good. You want that guy starting to get this together at the right time here, and it looks like he might be doing that. Teo, for the last couple of weeks, man, he's looked like last year's Teo.
Yep.
But with him and Muncy in the lineup, even if Muncy is just sort of middling right now, those are huge connection pieces in the middle of the order, especially when you have a guy like Will Smith out of it. So I think if those guys can continue to do what they're doing, then the loss of Smith is minimized as much as it can be with those dudes. So yeah, I'm feeling confident with what they have there. They haven't clicked on all cylinders all season. Obviously, a lot of that was Mookie was bad for an extended stretch. Freddie, Teo, right? Like some of those guys. So if they can just be good offensively, they don't even have to be great, because I think the pitching is going to be great. Then I think they have enough to make a real run, and they can be considered real favorites with that combination. They're going to have to piece together the bullpen in October. And you sent out a tweet, Jeff, that I really liked about, like, you sort of built it and you said, look, if you don't have to rely on Scott, Trinan, some of these other guys every time in leverage, the bullpen starts to not look so bad with Sheehan in there, with Kershaw in there, maybe with the effective Roki in there. And this morning, Scott and I talked about that too. I'm with you. It doesn't look so bad, and you can see the roadmap to get out after the starter exits. And so, I'm not as confident as I was in like April. But I'm as confident right now as I have been since like June.
Yeah. Bruce, where are you at? Scale of 1 to 10 on the offense.
I think I'm probably an 8, maybe a half bump up from Anthony, because I think like Max Muncy, I'm not worried about at all. And the rest of these guys that have looked bad for a lot of the year, Teoscar Hernandez is the big one that he's sort of rebounded, and that is huge for the depth of this lineup, especially without Will Smith. If Teoscar can be that big bopper right-handed batter to hit in Smith's place, and that makes this offense look a whole lot more fluid. I am worried about missing Will Smith. Like, that can't be glossed over in terms of what that means for this offense and the depth of the lineup. But there's also the factor that Ben Rortvedt has done a heck of a job. So you hope that he can continue hitting and you don't feel it as bad. I think, like Anthony said, the big thing is I am looking at this offense and saying we need more than just good offense. We need an offense that's going to make up for the bullpen. So I think that there's nothing the Dodgers
4 runs is not enough. This series has showed us one thing: 4 runs is not enough.
There's nothing the Dodgers can do about the state of the bullpen right now. They can throw the starters that didn't make it in the rotation in there. I'll admit, I still am not feeling like if Roki Sasaki or Clayton Kershaw are taking the mound in a high leverage postseason spot, I'm not going to be feeling great about it. Like, I hope it goes well, but I'm not going to be the guy who's like, I have full confidence in this situation. So I think the solution is the starting pitching needs to continue to be as good as they are. That part I'm not worried about, but the offense needs to go out and not lay any eggs, score 8 runs and we won't be worried about the bullpen at all. That's the solution.
Yeah, the key to not having Kershaw and Roki Sasaki in leverage situations is just don't have any leverage situations.
Right, there you go.
6-0 in the 8th inning feels good to me. Okay, so I'm with you, Bruce, by the way, 8 out of 10. And who knows? We'll see what happens with Will Smith. Like, he did have the one game he played in between this injury, he doubled in his first at bat. So there's a world where like he's still able to give them something, whether it's a pinch hit or who knows what off the bench. But let's go to the bullpen, because this group does not need to be great. We said all year, you need 2 out of 3 to be firing on all cylinders. That was probably assuming that the third wasn't like an F- altogether, because then you need more than 2 out of 3 to be firing on all cylinders. But to me, it's like, if this bullpen can just get to a C- level, then I feel good about that kind of a thing. And I'm not saying C- as in a 7 out of 10, but like for me, if I can get to a 5 out of 10, a 4.5 out of 10 with this bullpen, then I feel like the offense and starting pitching is going to be good enough. So Anthony, I'll come to you first. Like, give me a number on the bullpen as currently potentially constructed?
I'm like a 5 on them. Yeah, I'm about a 5. I think that's a good call. I think they have enough to piece things together. If they went in and they kept using guys the way they're using them in the roles that they had been, how they've been used by Dave, they're going to blow some games. They're just going to. But if you can find a way to start to maneuver things so that, certain guys are not pitching in those situations or, what have you, then I get more confident, because I think at that point in the postseason, you're counting outs. Yeah. And I think in some of these situations where we've seen a guy who is clearly struggling go past the 3-batter minimum, I don't think that happens in October, right? I think you don't like to hear it and you don't like to see it because it's resulting in losses or blown leads or whatever. But I think Dave really was searching for some of these guys to step up, and leaving them in during those situations was his way to try to see, is this guy going to give it to me? And I think he started to weed out the guys who can and can't.
Yeah. Bruce, what about you? 0 to 10, confidence level in the pen.
I'm more like a 4, maybe even a 3.5. I'm seriously concerned about this group. And I have been, along with you, Jeff, sort of an optimist about this bullpen for a lot of this year, and at least keeping the faith of waiting for them to figure it out. And it hasn't really happened for a lot of these guys. I don't feel any level of confidence in Tanner Scott right now. I'm sure nobody else does. I don't feel any confidence in Blake Treinen right now. Even Alex Vesia these last few days has not really had been his normal dominant self. Jack Dreyer's had a couple of less than Jack Dreyer outings. Like, I look at this bullpen and there isn't, not only is there not a shutdown guy that I feel like you can hand the ball to and be great with it, but there just aren't very many good guys either. I still worry about even Anthony Banda. If he's facing a lefty, cool, I'll be good there. But if you have to bring him in for a 1-run game and he has to face a big right-handed batter in between two lefties, I don't feel good there either. So really my solution, like I already said, is don't create high leverage situations, because I don't think there's a world where you're going to feel good about high leverage situations with this bullpen. I think it's in an ugly place. And you hope that the guys like Sasaki, Kershaw, and Sheehan can help it by moving to the bullpen. I think they will. It won't be as bad as it currently is, but I still don't think you're going to get to a point where, like last year's team, you could be in a close game moving into the back end and still feel like that there's a good chance. It's going to feel like that you're walking on eggshells anytime the game is close, and I don't think that's a comfortable way to win in October.
I think eggshells is polite.
I agree, Bruce. Yeah, I agree with you. I am confident, though, that there will be some more strategic usage of how some of these guys are deployed.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think what's going to be interesting is that if the Dodgers play this, the way I would play it, I'll put it this way. The way I would play it is you're not going to see any of these guys 2 days in a row. And in a 5-game series, you're just going to have to adjust to seeing multiple arms. You're not going to get to the end of a series and having seen Vesia 4 times in the course of 5 games or something like that. Because I just don't think, Vesia on night 1 is great. Vesia on night 2 of a back-to-back has been kind of a disaster. Same with Jack Dreyer. Same with Enriquez. There's a lot of these guys where I'm like, I don't mind them the first time, but then to bring them back the second time last night was the part that was mind-boggling to me. So I'm with you. Anthony, I know you've got to run, so I appreciate you hopping in and joining with us. We will be talking very soon, so we appreciate that. Enjoy, celebrate the NL West title, and we'll chat again on Sunday.
Sounds good.
All right. Anthony's hopping off here. Me and Bruce sticking around. The thing I was going to say, Bruce, I look up and down this bullpen, and I just keep thinking, if Tanner Scott is out of the closer role and he's a 6th or 7th inning guy instead of an 8th or 9th inning guy, and you're just throwing names at this thing, I still have confidence in Vesia. I know the last 2 outings were not great, but he has seemed to have settled in before that. Even the first of the 2 outings, he kind of survived, I should say. I really think Sheehan's going to be a weapon. We'll have to see how they decide to use him. Dreyer, Banda, Treinen, Stewart, Roki, Robleski, Kasperius, Klein, Hurt, Scott. That's the group that I would have on if I could choose this group. And when I look up and down that list, to your point, there's not one dominant arm on here that it's oh man, I need 4 outs and here you go, Blake Treinen. The ball is yours. We're going to live or die with you. But I do feel there's a number of guys that I wouldn't say I have zero confidence in. And maybe I'm just setting the bar too low based on what we've seen of late. But I think that's what gives me a 4.5 out of 10 with this group is not the high-end quality, but it's just kind of the quantity of matchup-specific, game-to-game, inning-to-inning arms that they could throw at you, where there's a lot of guys where it's like, if it's Robleski, if it's Roki, if it's Brock Stewart, like, I don't hate any of those three, and yet I also don't think any of them's in the top 3 arms that they have either.
Yeah, I think my worry is I agree with you in that there are guys that you can feel okay about giving the ball to, but I don't think I feel good about a lot of those options. It's very much I guess there isn't an alternative. So here we go, and let's see how it goes. And it's just not a comfortable way to go through it in October. I feel like this is the time when you really want that super bullpen. And it almost goes against my typical team building. Like, I'm not a guy who's like all over, go trade everything for a reliever, whatever. But in October, having that kind of shutdown guy really, really matters. And the Dodgers are so lacking in that department that you have to know, like, not only just the way baseball goes, it's a long postseason. We already said the Dodgers are going to need to win 13 games to win the World Series. In that whole month-long stretch, there are going to be close games. You can't expect the Dodgers to go out and have a blowout in every win that they have. And I just don't have a level of confidence in these okay options. There's guys like Enriquez, Robleski. You could hand the ball to them and feel like more likely than not you could get a scoreless inning. But when you have that many guys in a row, like if you put yourself in the 6th inning and need to pave the way through, I'm really worried that you're not going to get through the 9th without at least one of them having a blow up. And then all of a sudden it's 3 runs and you're losing. So I'm very much in an uncomfortable place with this bullpen, and I'm just hoping that the offense and the starting pitching can bridge the gap.
I'm almost banking on, like, however many innings are left in the game when we hand the ball to the bullpen, I need one more run than that. So if the bullpen needs to get me 3 runs, 3 innings, then I need a 4-run lead. If it's 2 innings, I need 3 runs. So we'll see how that shakes out. We have another special guest hopping in with us, another man you saw this morning if you've been following our channel, none other than Scott Geirman hopping in. Scott, Bruce and I were just talking, and he talked shutdown reliever. I was about to ask him this question, but I'll welcome you with this question instead. If the Dodgers have a 1-run lead in the 9th in game 1 of the wild card game, who do you want getting the ball? Like, let's just ignore. We don't know lefty. There's 2 lefties and there's 2 righties due up in the first 4. Who do you want handing the ball?
You said 2 righties?
Yeah, I'm saying like there's 50-50. There's half righties, half lefties due up in the first 4 guys up in the order. Which arm out of the Dodgers bullpen do you hate the least?
Honestly, it starts. See, that's the tough part, and that's why I echo. I'm gonna have to fix my thing here just so I can get my headphones down correctly. But it falls back on what we were talking about. The one guy at the back end, the roadmap to the back end of the game. Yeah. They lack that guy, and that's where the deadline is the biggest thing. But I'm looking at the list, and I'd hate to say that I'm hard pressed to find it. Like, is it Emmett Sheehan? Is it Anthony Bonda? It's the lefties. The lefties are the ones. Sans, Tanner, Scott are the ones who I feel most confident in. Anthony Bonda, Jack Dreyer doesn't have big time splits, so I'm good with him. Will Klein has had unbelievable stuff, and he's only pitched 2-3 innings in the last couple months in the big league pen. So, honestly, I'm gonna say like Jack Dreyer and Alex Vesia, and I'm gonna stick right there. I'm gonna stay there. I believe, but it's so small. It's like, how much do I have confidence do I actually have?
Yeah.
That's a really difficult question to answer.
Yeah, and again, it's not who do you feel good about, because I think the answer is nobody. Bruce, he mentioned all 3 guys that I think would be at the top of my list, which would be Dreyer, Vesia, and Emmett Sheehan in some order. I don't know if those are the 3 that you would have at the top of your list, but if you needed 3 outs in a 1-run game and one of these guys is walking through the doors of the bullpen, who do you want?
I think it's easily Alex Vesia for me. Yeah. And I don't feel all the way confident in it, like you said, but he's the guy I feel the least bad about, because when he's healthy, hopefully they can line him up to not be having to pitch back-to-backs all the time. He's also the kind of guy that's going to feast off October. He always does, gets a little bit of an extra boost from the whole environment. And he's that psychopath reliever that you can hand the ball to. And I think his stuff has been back to where it should be before he had that quick IL stint. And he's certainly the guy that if I had to tag one of these Dodger relievers as a good relief pitcher right now, then Vesia, I feel all right with giving him that tag and hoping that he can step up and rise to the occasion in October like he has before.
Yeah, and it's a good point too, because Vesia, I believe, no earned runs last year in like 7, 8, 9 appearances, something like that. So he's a guy with some proven postseason credentials as well. We'll need less Red Bull in October. That's for sure. Scott, where are you at big picture? One of the conversations we had when Anthony was in here just a few minutes ago was like, looking, we all know where we're at with the starting pitching. I think we're all in roughly the same place when it comes to the offense. You feel really good, maybe not perfect about this group because of Will Smith's injury, but the way that Freddie bounced back, Teoscar has bounced back, Tommy Edman in the lineup, like just the way that the lineup gets a little bit longer, even without Will Smith, it's really good, but not great maybe. And then the bullpen's like a big shrug emoji. So big picture for you heading into the wild card series and everything beyond it. How do you feel about this team?
I don't love having to play in a wild card. It's just an extra series that you have to deal with. And I think that's a pretty general thing to think about. The less games, the better that you have to worry about. But overall, this has been the dream for the Dodgers organization and how they've kind of built their team. You want a team with depth at the front end of the rotation. And now they have that front end of the rotation depth all the way through, 5, 6, counting Kershaw, however you want to deploy him. If he's in, bullpen, then we'll stick with the 5. You have 5 quality arms that on any other big league team, they'd be 1s or 2s, no matter how you want to dice it up. And they have that 1 through 5. So those guys can collectively come together and understand that the weight is on them. They're going to be taking the brunt of this. They have to carry that and use it as fuel. So coupled that with this offense, the bullpen's a different story. If the starting pitching is able to keep the opposing teams through 3 turns in the lineup at bay, just like they did against the Philadelphia Phillies, how can you not be overly confident about this team going into October? With the lineup where it's at, they've had an uphill climb. They all look like they're getting better. Mookie Betts, Ohtani's playing out of his mind. Freddie's coming out of his shell, and the rest of the cast. So I feel really confident. I think, Bruce, you were at about an 8.5, 9 as far as the offense is concerned. If that's where you're at, that's where I'm at, because the starting pitching is at a 10. That's a beautiful place to be. So if those 2 parts, we talk about two-thirds of the boat, Jeff, that's been for a couple of years now, been the overwhelming thing. I am juiced about going into the postseason with where this team is at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think the other thing that's worth pointing out, we can be hypercritical of the Dodgers because we're zoomed in on one team. Yeah. And so it's easy to know all of the flaws and all of the warts and exactly where they are on our team. And then to look at like the Phillies and be like, oh man, we're going to get smoked by the Phillies. When in reality, how many of us have an intimate understanding of the Phillies rotation, the Phillies bullpen, and the Phillies like 7, 8, and 9 hitter, right? Like we know what our problems are. We're looking at those through the magnifying glass because we're Dodgers fans, right? Padres fans maybe look at theirs like with rose-colored glasses on. Whatever the opposite of that is, crap-colored goggles. That's what we look at our stuff with. But when you look at, the Phillies, like they got like the 9th best ERA this year. They're like a top 7 or 8 offense. And so those are good numbers, right? But that's full season picture. And that tells me it's a very good team, but not a great team. And I think, Bruce, when I look at the landscape of the National League, the Phillies, I would say, I mean, they're the World Series favorites right now, according to DraftKings. Again, they don't have to play the wild card. That's part of it. But if you're telling me that's the biggest, baddest team that I'm going to have to go through to get to the World Series, to win a World Series, like all of a sudden my problems, our bullpen, our big picture, starting pitching, offense, bullpen combined looks a lot better to me when I zoom out and compare it to everybody else.
That's been the prevailing mindset for me. Every time that I look at where the Dodgers are at and I look at this bullpen specifically and really start to feel worrisome, it feels like not only within the National League, but even over on the American League side, there isn't a super juggernaut this year that I have to be totally fearful of. Even like the Dodgers have been in past years. It feels like that baseball as a whole was missing that team that kind of just looked flawless and marched their way through the regular season. That didn't exist this year. So you can feel a lot of solace in that the Dodgers are at least just one of the many teams that are contenders, are good, but are very flawed. It feels like it's a unique postseason this year in that every team is good enough to get there. It was a very close race. It still is a very close race in the American League for those last few wildcard spots. And nobody just marched their way to playoffs. So like you said, every Phillies podcast, every podcast for all the other teams that are going on are having the same conversation about their own teams right now and saying, how do you feel about this particular flaw? And look at the Dodger offense. They have Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman firing on all cylinders. And how the heck are we going to stop them? So it's not like the Dodgers are the only team with flaws. And that's certainly something that I am glad about heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out, by the way, for the season, bullpen numbers, the Dodgers, unsurprisingly, 22nd in Major League Baseball with a 4.34 ERA coming into this one. The Phillies are 20th with a 4.33 ERA on the season. So 3 scoreless innings from the Dodgers. Who knows? They may have passed the Phillies today in bullpen ERA. Just goes to show you.
The thing that I want to bring up, and you were talking about, and Bruce, great stuff about looking around teams around Major League Baseball, analyzing their own flaws and stuff like that. The Philadelphia Phillies certainly did not feel good leaving Dodger Stadium with how the Dodger starters took care of their starting lineup. Yeah. I think it was 0-54 that their starting lineup batted against Dodger starting pitching, which is remarkable. They were not good. So you leave LA winning 2 of 3. And the Dodgers still feel like, even though there was blunders there, even though that you can fall back on the starting pitching, that if the Dodgers get to that next round, Philadelphia Phillies, the Dodger starters have had a good look at that offense and they know where they're going to be at. It's just the bullpen. Now, if they can figure out a way, there's a better roadmap there, battle test some guys. People on our shows, Jeff, the last week, 2 weeks have been saying, I can't believe they're in the spot. They're having to, keep trying guys out. That's the state of where they're at. Just keep that's just how it goes. And now if they can battle test these guys, put them in different, spots, they're going to be able to figure it out. There's a lot of internal stuff going on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, I think what's fascinating about the bullpen is how little idea I have of the guys they are going to choose for this wild card roster. Obviously, there's some guys at the top, like you can pencil in Vesia, Dreyer, Bonda, I think Trinan's a safe bet. Brock Stewart, if he's healthy, but then beyond that, Tanner Scott probably, right? Like Emmett Sheehan probably. I think Kershaw's probably. But if you told me, if you're throwing names out like Kasparius, who's not even on the Major League roster right now, Kyle Hurt, who's not even on the Major League roster right now, I think there's a real chance those 2 guys end up on a postseason roster. I don't think the Dodgers are afraid of having them sitting down in AAA. And Bruce, I know Kyle Hurt's a guy that you were pounding the table for in the second half as a bold prediction. Scott, I know it's a guy that you like as well. This is a guy who, yes, he's down in AAA, but crazier things have happened than for a guy to basically not play in the major leagues all season. And then for the Dodgers to say, whether it's to Enriquez, whether it's to Robleski, because they feel like they have too many lefties, whether it's to whoever, we're just going to go Kyle Hurt or Ben Kasparius and shake things up a little. Will Klein, I mean, he's pitched twice, but I feel better about Will Klein than Edgardo Enriquez right now. So I think these things are volatile, Bruce, is my point.
It's a tough postseason roster to predict right now, and that comes with the territory of this whole second half. A lot of the optimism I've had about the bullpen has been placed in the feeling that certain guys will figure it out. And that hasn't really happened. It's just continued to be a hair on fire every single night kind of operation. And there hasn't been guys that have separated themselves from the pack. And so now you're looking at an imperfect group and just hoping that you're going to choose the right guys. I think Kyle Hurt, I am not as optimistic about right now in terms of his postseason chances, just because I was hoping that maybe 2 weeks ago at some point here that he was going to get brought back up to the big leagues and have a chance to, get his feet wet again. It's tough to throw a guy. I think Kasparius has a better chance there because at least he's been with the big league team for the whole year mostly. And then he got sent down to AAA. But for Hurt coming right off the Tommy John surgery, that's a tough assignment to throw you right into the deep end. I think he's good enough to handle it if they really feel confidence in what he's done in AAA. But I do think that guys like Klein and Henriquez, I think, are a little bit above Hurt on the totem pole right now, just because they've at least been here.
Scott, I know you're a Kyle Hurt guy, and then I want to get your thoughts on Roki Sasaki. So give me Kyle Hurt, and then are you buying the Roki Sasaki hype train?
Kyle Hurt, yeah, I agree with Bruce wholeheartedly. I believe that the Dodgers have big plans for Kyle Hurt in their future. And I believe this stuff plays. The fastball's in a great spot. Velocity's at a good spot. His rehab has been great. Really happy with that. His secondary offerings are looking really good. He looks competitive. So his up down stuff has been nice. So I'm comfortable with how his progression has gone in AAA. It's just a matter of he hasn't had any taste of the major leagues. He hasn't been up with the big club. And to what Bruce said, I wish it would have happened last week. Find a way to do that, because jamming him in at this very last week, going into the final series, and then saying your first taste is maybe it will be against the Seattle Mariners in big stuff, and then we're going to carry you on a postseason roster. It's a lot to ask. It's definitely a lot to ask. It's a lot of pressure. The psychological stuff definitely comes into it. I think he's built for it from a stuff standpoint. But do they really want to pressure him that much? I don't know. I don't know if the Dodgers really want to do that. Just like he said, Bruce said, they might have a few guys ahead of him they might feel more comfortable using if other things happen. If an injury happens, he's definitely a guy I know they feel confident in, but there definitely are a few more guys on the totem pole. But with Roki, look, I spoke with Anthony this morning on Unplugged about that outing last night went as good as we could have hoped, just from a pure operation standpoint. He flashed his fastball, it was a sinker. That thing had a ton of arm side run, was really impressed with that, felt, wipeout stuff. Splitter started in a good spot, stayed competitive. We just haven't seen the cutter. I really am excited to see once he starts unleashing that, feels comfortable with it. Look, that's a guy. So I want to see how it goes. He looked like he had some mound presence, and it was a new arm. It wasn't a part of the guys who have failed in the major leagues. And I think there's a lot to that. It's that stay on this up and up, build confidence, build success and positive outings. And I believe in what Roki's got. This is a different guy, and it's remarkable that he has a tough start to his rookie season, gets hurt, and finds a way to be in a legit conversation as a big bullpen piece.
Yeah, I teased it earlier. We've got an interview with Lance Brozdowski that'll be posting in the morning, and it basically revolves around Roki Sasaki primarily. He texted me a week ago and basically said, man, they ditched his slider for more of a bullet slider. He mentioned, you talked about it, Scott, like last night, if you go to Savant, it says he threw, I think it's 9 fastballs or 7 fastballs, but Lance is like 2 of those were definitely sinkers, which he had started throwing a little bit more of and found some success with as well. So Bruce, are you all in? I mean, it's one outing. It was the bottom of the lineup against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And yet we're looking for optimism here. So are you buying it?
I'm not all in. I think I'm certainly optimistic from the standpoint of I didn't think we were ever going to be anywhere near this point with Sasaki this year. I still think it's marvelous that like the beginning of his rehab assignment, he still looked like the same guy from before the injury. The velocity was down. It seemed like, all right, this year's about to get scrapped. And then, boom, something changed. I like that they finally instituted the bullet slider. That was something that I was hoping they were going to do this year. I'm glad we got to that point, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in the big leagues. But I'm not all the way in because I still think that you're talking about a rookie who, before he went on the injured list, had his times where it felt meltdowny. I still don't think that his command is at a level where it's by any means impossible that he could come out one big inning in the playoffs and just not be able to throw strikes. So when that is part of the equation, I'm not going to be able to say that I have full confidence. But the way that he looked last night, he looks like he belonged on the big league mound, which he pretty much never did as a starting pitcher. That is important. The stuff was all the way back up. The velocity was high. It was uncomfortable swings. So if he can stay that guy that he was last night and from a stuff perspective, then that makes up a lot of the other invariabilities with command, with confidence. Like if you're throwing 100, you'll be able to have some baseline level of success and then hope you can build from there with keeping that confidence flowing.
Yeah, again, more in that interview with Lance, but he mentions there's a lot of things they cleaned up and they got to work with him under the hood down in the minor leagues. And obviously we're seeing the results. And look, if the fastball velocity, in that fastball velocity was up over 3 miles an hour, the splitter was up 2.5 miles an hour. It's just throw that crap as hard as you can, Roki, and figure the rest out later. And it seemed to be working. We know he needs the velo on the fastball. He seems to have found it. And so, again, whether or not that translates multiple times, like I'm assuming we will see him once at least in Seattle, and that'll be a real pivotal moment. I just think from a confidence thing, like I was perfectly fine with them only giving him 1 inning yesterday because I was like, the most important thing is him leaving this game believing he could pitch at this level. It was not getting that second inning. It was a confidence booster. It was the psychological piece of it. So to me, Scott, that was the most important thing. Mission accomplished. Yep. Now, Klein, Sasaki, Enriquez, those are 3 guys that I think like the next 3 days in Seattle are actually going to be really important for. Because if Enriquez struggles, if Klein continues to be awesome, like I think those are things that the Dodgers, Dave Roberts, Andrew Friedman are going to take into consideration.
All righties, all the righties, Jeff. It's just I don't think I can't think back to a spot where it's there have been off seasons or postseasons where a team will have just one lefty on the postseason roster. Now we're at a point where it's like as many lefties as we can get in there, throw the splits out the window. Jack Dreyer, if you can handle righties, get in there, buddy. But yeah, it's the righties. There's just something with them. There's something with them right now. But I totally agree with you. They're fighting, they're battling because Dave has to have those options. And these guys they're going to be under the microscope going into this weekend against the Mariners team that has been playing on all cylinders. So it's a good test. I'm happy about it. You lock up the West in Arizona. Now you can go out there and you can continue to mix and match. You can continue to ask Dave Roberts, Dave, pick spots for these guys. If it's a spot with runners on base, put them out there, see if they can work out of it, see if you can execute. I need to see them execute. And that's all I need to see. And that's what the front office is going to be checking those boxes for.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because neither of these teams really has much to play for. I don't know all the tiebreakers. I know Seattle currently has obviously clinched the division. They have a 3-game lead over the Guardians for the number 2 seed in the American League. So I'm not sure who holds the tiebreaker there, but for all intents and purposes, neither of these teams is going to be playing for anything. And yet this is the funny part about baseball. Even with expanded rosters, you've got to field a team. So it's not like you can just sit all of your best players because you've only got 4 guys on the bench on the offensive side of thing, and you still got to take down 27 outs on the other end. So interesting to see. Brock Stewart, of course, the other big name that again, I joked about a shrug emoji earlier. Like that's Brock Stewart's arm right now. It's depending on who you ask. I've talked to some people who seem to think there's optimism around Brock Stewart. Like he's fine, no big deal. They're just playing it safe. And then there's other people that are like, are you seeing the quotes they're giving us? Because he's pitchable with the quote from Dave Roberts. Like what the hell does that mean? So that's a big one because, Bruce Scott mentions like they got pitchers that are a lot of lefties. And so on the right-handed side, it's kind of whack-a-mole for find a guy you could poke holes, right? It's Emmett Sheehan. He probably has the best stuff. He's the most electric guy. Hasn't really pitched in a relief role. Can he pitch back-to-back days? Blake Trinan, we know the track record. Looked good in 1 out yesterday, throwing all sweepers. But is he going to be the 12 ERA guy or the guy that was a World Series hero a year ago? Brock Stewart, not healthy. Roki Sasaki, 1 time. Ben Kasparius in AAA. Kyle Hurt in AAA. Klein, 2 appearances at the major league level. Like Enriquez, terrible all week. Those are the righties. Those are all the right-handed pitchers that they have eligible for the postseason roster. And again, I like Sheehan. I like Trinan. I'm in the minority on the Trinan camp, I know for sure. But like those are the best 2 guys they got, Bruce.
It's tough to look at the right-handed side, and that's how it's been for a little bit now, where it's been waiting for one guy in the right-handed side of the bullpen to step up and really feel reliable. Hasn't totally happened. Brock Stewart is the one that I'm really looking at. I am praying that he's going to be back this weekend and he's still going to look like Brock Stewart because he is such a difference maker in terms of making this group gel together. The whole reason the Dodgers traded for him is he's a righty killer. And when you've got all these lefties in the bullpen, he's the exact guy that you need to balance it out where if, one part of the lineup has, all the lefties go to Jack Dreyer there, and then when the righties come back up, you can go to Brock Stewart, and it feels balanced and good and happy there. If Brock Stewart isn't part of that equation, then you have a bunch of righties that aren't really right-handed dominant. They're more just, regular splits guys who you can't throw out and feel perfect about. I still have some confidence in Edgardo Enriquez. I think that he's close to a lock personally. For if I were making the postseason roster, I would make sure he's on it. This last week hasn't been beautiful, obviously, but I still think that he's got the stuff. He can go out and throw 101 fastball, 103 maybe in the playoffs, and that cutter, and I think he'll be fine. For Roki and Klein, I already just talked about Roki, but the last thing I'll add on him, I want to see how they use his sinker and 4-seam fastball differentiation in one more outing this weekend. The 4-seamer was 100, so it worked well enough, but I still think that the movement profile, there still isn't a lot of carry on that pitch, and I worry about in the playoffs against the best hitters in baseball, if those guys catch up to it and just get a barrel there, they can hit 100 miles an hour in the playoffs. So I worry a little bit about that fastball, just a little bit still. And then for Klein, it's another stuff heavy guy that you just throw out and hope that the triple-digit fastball can carry you to success.
Yeah, hope it lands in the zone, I think is the big thing.
Big thing.
Last guy I want to ask about is Tanner Scott. Scott, I know you were sort of buying in over the last week and a half with the sliders and stuff. A little bump in the road last week. Give me the status update on our Tanner Scott stock position.
I was happy that they tried something different aside throwing just heavy fastballs. Like I was happy with that. He just wasn't executing. It's flat out comes down to making things competitive, starting things in a competitive spot. But when a pitcher or when hitters can just cut off half of the plate, and I know I love what the SNLA post game had this. Hitters are just cutting off half the plate, and stuff's just not competitive. He's not working both sides. He is just keyholing stuff. And it flat out comes down to that. He lacks the confidence, and for all like lack of better words, he lacks the moxie to pitch himself out of it. It's like he's waiting for these moments to happen, and then when there's traffic, he's trying to throw his best pitch every time instead of just letting stuff work for itself. Early on in the year, when it wasn't this bad, well, it wasn't this bad. It was Tanner, throw some stuff in the zone. Stop trying to get so much chase. And now it's just he's trying to be way too perfect, and he's putting himself where he's hanging things right down the middle again. Yeah. Putting himself with self-induced traffic. So I don't have much faith in him. Bruce brought this up that they'll keep waiting for guys to figure it out, but at a certain point with arms in the bullpen, it might be too late to figure it out and have a drastic overhaul in what they're doing, because it takes time to work these alterations and put them into effect. It takes time for that to re-hardwire yourself that in this count I'm supposed to make this adjustment, in this spot I'm supposed to make this adjustment. I think Tanner Scott's kind of run out of time here.
Yeah. Let's get to some questions, all caps questions. Bruce, as those are starting to populate, are you in agreement with Scott that the Tanner Scott experiment is over with? And sure, if he's like a low leverage guy on the back end of the bullpen roster, fine. But other than that, that's where no confidence kind of a thing.
Yeah, he's just a head case. And I think him and Kirby Yates have looked very similar lately, where when a guy reaches base, you just see something in their eyes that's like, here we go again. And that's not a way to pitch. He just has lost his confidence, and it feels like it's a bowling ball rolling downhill that's hard to stop when he starts to get into a jam. He's been super heavy slider since that Orioles game. It's been like something like 80% slider. And that signals to me that the fastball is lost. They have no confidence in it. He has no confidence in it. And that feels less like an adjustment to try and get him right and more like a last ditch effort because we just can't throw the fastball anymore. And he's just not going to succeed as a one pitch guy.
Yeah. It's interesting because today I feel like the pitch mix was back to kind of what we had seen. I was trying to pull it up. Yeah. 11 fastballs, 9 sliders today after like 5 consecutive games where it was like 80% sliders. So, he gets 4 whiffs on 14 swings, but again, 14 swings on 20 pitches. Like that's a pretty high number there. 55% in the zone, but 29% whiff rate, just 1 called strike. So he's not fooling anybody. They're swinging at everything. They're not whiffing all that much. It's a bad combination for Tanner Scott right now. Real quick, Scotty Kershaw out of the pen. Talk to me.
Hey, buddy. Hey, we talked. I remember when I came out with that flash, comment a month or so ago, and I said, hey, he's in a rotation for me. I feel like he's doing a good enough job. We talked this morning. Look, if they can find a way, desperate times call for desperate measures. And there's something to be said about the greatest run preventer of all time. I think if you're going to use him, it's to start an inning. No, don't bring him in with runners on base. Dave, for the love of God, just give him a clean inning. Go out there, see the mound, let him look around first, second, and third, and look at the batter and say, now we're going to start fresh with this inning. And I think I'm comfortable with that because he can go give you multiple. Kershaw's going to leave it all out there. And that's what you want out of relievers. Just leave it on the field. Who cares? You've got a 2019 Nationals everything has to be on the table. And if Clayton Kershaw's up for it, he's not going to get you the whiff. But if he can catch lightning in a bottle and get in a rhythm here, that slider is just cooking. When it's working, man. So it's not that I feel like he's going to be overly dominant, but I'm confident in him that he's going to be able to tap into that run preventing mindset, that I'm going to do whatever it takes because now I'm in a different type of role. And when you're an athlete, a professional athlete, and you're tasked with doing something different, that's when you see guys kind of take a next step. Mookie Betts did it when he was at shortstop. You take a next step. You have a new task. You put all you have into it. And Kershaw knows this is his last run. So he's now has a chance to go from being the 6th starter in a rotation and maybe making a start. Now he can go be a reliever, pitching in 1 innings, 2 innings every other day. Jeff, I think that's a unique thing we need to start talking about more and like appreciating it when he goes out there.
Well, and look, Dave keeps saying about this bullpen, like, I need them to not pitch scared. And there's nobody that's just jumping off the page is like, I trust this guy. I mean, ninth inning, Clayton Kershaw, like, again, he's not going to get swing and miss, which is like the number one thing you want. But like, I'm not worried about him crapping his pants either, like I am half these other guys, right? Like Robleski, the thing I loved about him the other night was it was like nutsack on the table time for Robleski. He didn't give any craps. It was hard stuff right at you, not backing down. There just aren't a lot of guys. Vesey, I think's like that, but like it's his fastball 2 miles an hour faster than Kershaw's fastball. It gets the swing and miss. He's been really effective, but I just look up and down this list, Scott, and it's crazy to say this because I hate Clayton Kershaw out of the bullpen because of the scars that I wear and because I love him so much. I think I trust him as much as any of these other guys right now.
The last thing I'll add to this, because I know we're getting a ton of questions, is that the Dodgers bullpen desperately needs someone to be a steady force, a steady mind, a steady voice. And what better person than Clayton Kershaw out there, regardless of how much he's pitching? It's that they can look at him and they know that somebody's out here has done this before. Like he's got the pedigree. They need some steadying factor. And I think that's vastly important. These philosophical things with Major League Baseball and rosters and roster building, for what people have the deficiencies in Miguel Rojas, it matters. He goes out in front of the microphone and speaks like the steady three at the top. Mookie Betts just hard at his work. It's all these little things that we don't talk about. And the Dodgers bullpen has been what Bruce said, a bowling ball going down a hill. And it's just been a snowball effect. And Kershaw going out there and having the new guys out there in terms of like a tryout. That stuff is important for them to have good outings because there has to be some stop to this downhill fall. And I think it's really important that Clayton Kershaw is out there.
Bruce, any confidence in Kershaw, the reliever?
I was really hoping we weren't going to have to ask him to be a reliever in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we're in that place where the Dodgers have no other choice. And turning to him, I think that in some weird way, this being his last hurrah, the fact that he's about to retire gives me a little bit of extra confidence and that he's going to go out and there's going to be no thought process about even November, let alone next year. It's going to be leave it all out on the table. He's going to be telling Dave Roberts, I can pitch anytime you need me whatsoever.
Yep.
And I think that Kershaw's a gamer, so he's going to go out there. He'll compete no matter what. And the Dodgers are not in any sort of position where they can deny that and try to turn to anybody else.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to some questions. Vinny asks, are the Phillies a bigger worry out of the NL than the Brewers? I'll answer for that for all of us. Absolutely, unequivocally, yes. Is anybody out of the AL scary at all? Bruce, anybody in the American League scare you?
Yeah. I like I said, I think the Dodgers are a team that are flawed enough that there aren't any of the teams in either league that I look at and I say the Dodgers would win in a 7-game series like 10 out of 10 times. I just don't think that that's how this postseason goes. I've been watching that AL East race really closely. The Red Sox and the Blue Jays going toe to toe. I think both those teams are interesting. The Blue Jays have hit a skid here. But the Red Sox, like they've got Garrett Crochet that you are really fearful of. And there's talent. I think the NL is a better league. I still also will say the Brewers, like they obviously are not playing at the same level they were the last time they came to LA and boat raced the Dodgers, but that's a ball club that does things well. And I think that they have a young sort of energy that they're going to be given everything they have. So I still would not gloss over the Brewers by any stretch.
Mariners would be the other team in the AL that
jump
out to me. I mean, they're the number 2 favorite right now. But Scott, I mean, do you agree Philly's much scarier to you than the Brewers?
As far as playing at the bank, yes, playing in Citizen Bank is something I don't like to see on TV. That's just hearing the TBS intro, dun dun dun, they're hearing that, and then pan to the bank and everybody going crazy. I don't like that. I like what Bruce said about the Brewers. The Brewers play a very annoying brand of baseball. They play hard. They are not afraid they steal. They run. They take the extra bag. They play like very good defense. They do the little things well. And in the postseason, when things aren't going great, you can always fall back on fundamentals. You can always fall back in the little things. And Pat Murphy has the Brewers doing the little things really well. I like his managerial style. He manages, his guys tough. And when you have a young group of guys who go out there and they all feel like they're on the same page, I'm still going to say it. The Brewers know how to piece their roster together. They get every juice, like all bit of juice out of the squeeze. I would definitely say it's not that the Phillies are a bigger worry. I like the big names in the lineup for sure. But I'm not going to put it past the Brewers to go out there and surprise you a lot. I know that's a non-answer, Jeff, but it's just the people look at the Milwaukee Brewers and they don't see the big names. You still see Christian Yelich hanging around. But they are in the number 1 seed in the NL for an absolute reason. They get everything out of their roster.
It's a game of inches, and the Brewers are the kind of team that speaks of that. They play the college brand, and I know that series that they played here in LA, like regardless of what they've done the rest of the year, that was plenty to put the fear of God in me about Milwaukee. That
exactly,
they
man,
know how to play the game right, and
Yep.
in the playoffs where every little thing matters, like they don't have the big names. If the Brewers had big names and more just like overall base talent, then I'd be terrified. Instead, I'm more in the scared territory. Of the Dodgers certainly have the talent to win out, but there's something about that team that still makes me fearful.
Yeah. Somewhere Anthony is listening to this who just has no respect for the Brewers and the offense that they put out there, and he's laughing right now. So shout out to our guy Anthony. Hawaiian Kira, even with the uncertainties, how excited are you for the postseason? I'll admit, like I've said this before, and I never want this to come across the right way. I don't know how much of the postseason I actually enjoy. I find myself like despising the way that I feel most of the time because it is so stressful. It is so full of anxiety. And like until they win, like until Freddie Freeman hits the home run in the World Series, until the final out is recorded, it's like I don't allow myself to feel joy. So, Scott, I see you laughing. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but like I
you're right.
I genuinely don't think I enjoy the postseason.
When I will say this, and I know I love postseason ball. I love baseball with all my heart. If that's the only sport I could watch the rest of my life, I would do it. I'm out here. I'm the guy that's watching a Chicago White Sox and Tampa Bay Rays game, and then like on a Tuesday afternoon, if it's there, I'm in. But when it comes to the postseason, I would be lying if I said that if I am slammed with some family commitment during a stressful postseason game and I have to miss it, I'm okay. Like, it's just, I can save myself from that. It's happened. Like, I've been at a wedding where there was in 2018, they were playing the Brewers and I couldn't watch the game. And let me tell you, I kind of enjoyed it because it's so stressful. It's so stressful, man.
Yeah. And this has nothing to do with my confidence in the Dodgers winning, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't like last night's game. Did anybody enjoy watching last night's Dodgers game? Like nobody did. Maybe you enjoyed the ending, but like the 7th inning on, anybody who told me they had a good overall net positive night, I think you're lying. Like, I just think that's how playoff baseball feels to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Dodger fans and baseball fans as a whole that live and die with every pitch throughout the regular season and have the emotional reactions. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a guy that during the regular season, I'm very grounded. I understand it's a marathon. I don't lose my cool over individual games. Flip the calendar to October, I'm completely the opposite. Every little thing swings me in an emotional direction. I don't enjoy it at all until the Dodgers are raising the trophy, and that ride there is an uncomfortable one. So I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I'm accepting that it's about to be here, and I'll suffer through it however it goes.
I need to see Bruce get mad at something. I need to see that. I need to see you get angry.
Shelly says,
I have my times behind closed doors.
Shelly says, I'm starting my Dodgers diet on Tuesday where I can't eat because I'm so nervous. So there you go. Look, maybe I can get on that train. Just stop eating a little bit. Ram Laker says, Kersh and Sheehan automatic upgrades in the current bullpen. What are the chances they have a planned piggyback with one of them when Shohei pitches? Scott, there's been a lot of talk about an Ohtani Kershaw piggyback. It makes sense because you go righty, you go lefty, you go 99 miles an hour, 91 miles an hour, different pitchers in many different ways. Is that how you would approach game 1 of the wild card series if they ask, Scott?
I have a hard time signing up to that. I really do, like a planned piggyback. I think the playoffs are so fluid and games are so fluid. Like, you just never know. I don't like locking anything into that. I really don't. So I'm going to say no, just for the sake that I don't like locking planned piggyback things, just because the Dodgers don't have that optionality this year. You have to just be fluid in your plan and how things go and kind of play it by ear. I think Emmett Sheehan, you have to pick a good spot for him, and I don't want to burn him that early on in the series. I really don't. Just depends on how long he goes. I also don't think Shohei Ohtani's a game 1 starter. I also think they're going to go either Blake Snell or Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I think that's how it's going to go, and Ohtani will be either game 2 or game 3.
Okay. Bruce, what do you think about a piggyback?
I agree with Scott. I think that the postseason, especially with the way that the bullpen is right now and how volatile like every single guy feels, it needs to be a constant reevaluation of what the current situation is, how the current situation needs to be best addressed, how the rest of the series is affected by it. I don't think you can go into a game and say for sure that you're going to use one of these two guys, you could lean that way. Like you could go into, if it is Ohtani starting game one, you could go into game one and say maybe 75%. If it is this situation, we'll go to Kershaw and he'll be ready for it. But I don't think you go in and you pencil that in no matter what, because it's the postseason, and especially in that wild card series where it's a best of 3, that magnifies it to 1,000, where you need to be ready to pivot in any given direction at any given time. And the scripting departs from that too much.
Yeah, it's interesting because if it is Ohtani in game one, you kind of have a cap on how many innings you can expect out of Ohtani, which I think is different than Yamamoto and Snell, who you're crossing your fingers you can get 7 or 8. I mean, if Ohtani's incredibly efficient, sure, maybe he gets to 7. It feels unlikely. Scott, game one is on Tuesday. So if Yamamoto were to start that game, it would be 4 days of rest before game one. Snell would be 5 days of rest. And Ohtani would obviously be on 6 days of rest. So does that change anything for you?
You said Snell would be on how many for game one?
5.
I still think Blake Snell gets the. I think Blake Snell gets.
Oh, I thought you said Yamamoto gets game one. I'm sorry.
I said you could either one or the other, but I'm thinking Blake Snell is going to be the game one guy. I think that's it, and then Ohtani game 2, Yamamoto game 3. I think that's how it goes.
Bruce, what do you think? How do you think this shakes out? Well, currently, the reason I think I should say the reason I assume Ohtani, Snell, Yamamoto is because that's the way they're currently lined up in the rotation. They would all be on like 6 days or 7 days of rest or whatever it is going in. But again, there is some flexibility because of the number of days off. So Bruce, how do you think it shakes out?
I think that it winds up going in that order. If I had to choose a way right now, Ohtani will be lined up. I kind of imagine that, at least when I think about it, I think that Ohtani's been so great that you're like, all 3 of these guys are in the same class in terms of ability, I think. And having him pitch to start the series, getting that out of the way, and then just having Ohtani the remaining 2 games just hit and not worry about that. I know when he's been asked about it, he said like it doesn't make a difference, whatever. But I think getting the pitching out of the way first, and then having him the rest of the series without having to plan for a start probably would help. So I'd do it that way since the rest lines up like it.
Yeah. And again, I think you could make the case that any of these 3 is the best pitcher on the Dodgers. I think outside of Paul Skeens and Tarek Skubal, you could make the case that any of these 3 guys might be the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. There's metrics for all of them. Again, I said Ohtani, for the guys that have pitched the number of innings he's pitched, the best FIP in all of Major League Baseball. Yamamoto, 2.49 ERA, 4th in Major League Baseball. Blake Snell, we know the dominance when it comes to strikeout rate and all that kind of thing. Let's see. Says, what does it say about the Dodgers, Scotty? This one's perfect for you. When their highest paid player, Ohtani, and longest tenured legend, Kershaw, show more fight, more drive, more desire to win than anyone else on the team and aren't getting comfortable. It does feel like these 2 guys are tone setters in the way that they approach this, right?
Shohei Ohtani, even when going back to when he was playing with the Angels, going back to when he was a kid, and then you see in the WBC, he wants to win at any cost. Like he went out there with a shoulder that was falling off and continued to stay on the field because he was a force in the lineup. Clayton Kershaw, as many times as he's given up a big postseason homer and been beaten down and his body has beaten him back, goes out there and continuously takes the ball. He's been there, done that. He has withstood the test of time of far longer than people could have imagined.
Yeah.
When it's said that you're like a franchise icon does not care. He relishes in the moment to battle back and to get back on the horse. And that's something with Clayton Kershaw now is why I said you need someone who's going to have that rubber arm in the postseason. And there is no way the Dodgers are in any position to turn someone down with the state that their bullpen's in. This is all hands on deck. It's going to be that all the time. Outside of your starters, you have to go with whoever feels best that day, how things line up, and who's willing to take the ball. And even if you fail, I hope it doesn't happen in the wild card round, and then we can talk about a 5 or a 7 game series, and then you have a little bit more margin for error. But having a guy in Clayton Kershaw who will go out there and take the ball anytime says a ton. And that's why the team needs that. That's why I put so much weight into the bullpen and some of these young guys who haven't had that success. They need to see someone willing to do that.
Yeah. Bruce, question from Thomas. Do you think playing the Mariners and being in the wild card is good for carrying momentum into October? I think this team has a roller coaster of a bullpen and needs to play every day. This was a long talking point up until last year where it was like, oh, not playing in the wild card was actually bad for them, the time off, that kind of a thing. Do you buy kind of this Mariners series against a very good team straight into the wild card might actually give the Dodgers a chance to keep this thing rolling?
I think the Mariners part of it is nice to play a team that you're not going to immediately face in the playoffs. I'm glad that it's not like the Mets that are ending the series and I think are ending the season, and that's obviously scheduled that way. It's nice to play a really competitive Mariners team. I don't know what the series is going to look like, though, in terms of, like you already said earlier, the Dodgers and Mariners, neither of them are playing for their division, so I don't know what kind of competitive baseball it's going to look like. Who knows? I wish the Dodgers were not playing in the wild card series. I would much rather have that time off. I think the Dodgers would too. Avoiding that wild card series would have been great. Didn't happen. Now you have to get through it and find a way to get to the division series. I think, like you said, last year it was up in the air. Then the Dodgers didn't play in the wild card series. Then they won the World Series. So that hopefully dispelled all notions that playing in additional games or playing in an additional series is a good thing. You always want to minimize how many games you're playing in the postseason and figure it out from there. And it's a much easier hurdle to keep yourself from getting cold with off days versus having to win a postseason series. That's always going to be the tougher thing. So the Dodgers are in the situation they're in. They wish they weren't playing in the wild card series, but there's not really any use in thinking that. So they're just going to look at the calendar, see how many games they have to play, and prepare for that.
Yeah, absolutely. GI says, sounds like a call-up's unlikely, but how well is Kyle Hurt pitching in AAA? So far this year, 9 1/3, 10 hits, 2 runs, 5 walks, 10 strikeouts for Kyle Hurt. One of those 2 runs was in his first appearance way back on September 2nd. So pretty good, all things considered. We know the hitting environment in Oklahoma City, but as we talked about earlier, it might be a bit of an uphill climb. TN wants to know, Scott, why isn't Glasnow starting any of the wild card games? And I'll just tack on to this. Would you have a role for Tyler Glasnow in the wild card series, or would you have him off the roster entirely?
I might have him off the roster entirely. I think I'm comfortable in saying I would keep him off the roster entirely, and then use that
for the NLDS.
Just save him for the NLDS. Don't need to rush him. You're not bringing him in at the back end of a game. You're not putting him in the bullpen, because if you do that, then you set yourself up for a little bit of failure later in the DS. There, I know you want your best guys. I that's maybe Bruce can expand on this a bit, but I think I'm comfortable leaving him off the roster for the wild card. If there's an injury, sure, if something goes wrong, but I think they would prefer somebody else other than Tyler Glasnow coming in possibly in one of those piggyback scenarios, or in break glass in case of emergency scenarios. I don't think they'd want to tap into that.
Bruce?
Yeah, ultimately the wildcard series is going to be, play every game like a game 7, go crazy, use everybody you can. But you still have to keep the perspective that there's a lot of postseason left to play once you get through the wildcard series. And Tyler Glasnow is going to be setting himself up to start a division series game, and putting him on the wildcard roster and assuming some way that you work him in, I think would mess up the schedule. And even though it would increase your odds, like, say something as simple as adding Glasnow to one of those piggybacks, getting 3 innings out of him somewhere in the wildcard series, it might increase your odds. It will increase your odds of getting through the wildcard series, but I think ultimately it might decrease your World Series odds a bit, just because you're taking him off his schedule. You don't know what that's going to mean for the division series once you get there. And ultimately, I just think it's a logistical thing that wouldn't be worth all the hoops that you'd need to jump through. The Dodgers, in order to win the World Series, will need to get to the division series and have Tyler Glasnow starting one of those games. So just let him prepare for that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And to answer the question that was asked, and I apologize for that, I think Yamamoto, Snell, and Ohtani are in a different tier than Glasnow. And that's way less disrespectful to Glasnow than it sounds, because I think those 3 guys are like top 5 to 7 pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. And Tyler Glasnow, when he's right, is probably like a top 12 to 15 pitcher in all of Major League Baseball. So I think it's a very clear top 3. But what's interesting to me is they do get a 26-man roster for a 3-game series. And so I think it's possible he's just on the roster, because that 26th roster spot, the odds of it mattering are so low. And if it does matter, like, you might want in a game 3 that you absolutely need to win, and all of a sudden you need 2 outs. I might like having Tyler Glasnow out there and say, I'll figure the rest out later. So because it's a 3-game series, in a 7-game series, I'm going to use every guy in my bullpen, I imagine. But in a 3-game series, there's a little more flexibility, especially with the Ohtani rule, to where I'm saying, like, if you're making me choose between Alex Call being on the roster or Tyler Glasnow being on the roster, like, which one of those guys has a greater likelihood of impacting this series positively? I think it's a pretty obvious answer between those.
It's
two.
interesting, right? Because you'd have to be assuming that Glasnow would be willing and that it wouldn't mess up his schedule at all to kind of just have him only on the roster for like a Max Scherzer closing out the NLDS in 2021. That would be the only reason to be on the roster. I'd be open to it. I guess if it's something that he said wouldn't, like if he was able to schedule it in to be like his bullpen day, that he's ready to throw 3 outs if it's needed. So I don't think it's impossible. I just think that it's a big hoop to jump through when you also have to consider, yes, it's a 26-man roster for 3 games. It's a lot, but it is 3 straight days if you end up playing 3 games. And with the guys that have struggled, especially off of back-to-backs, I think it might also make sense to use every one of those spots and then try to limit guys pitching on back-to-backs as much as possible over that 3-game stretch.
Well, Scott, the good news is nobody has ever questioned Glasnow's mental fortitude, his ability to be flexible and adaptable and to sort of stay in the moment. So I think given all those things, I think it's a pretty safe bet he'd be fine coming out in, get 2 outs and the bases loaded in the 9th inning or something like that,
He'll be the new Patrick Corbin. He'll be the new Patrick Corbin and go lay it out on the line. You just watch.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
2 more questions. TQT. Robo reminds me of what Tanner Scott should be. That's a sentence. Throws 98 with a good slider cutter. This is the question. Can they fit him onto the playoff roster? We mentioned all the lefties that they have. Vesia, Dreyer, Bonda, all ahead of him. And then I think you've got like Robleski and Tanner Scott and Clayton Kershaw. Let's put Kershaw in. So then you've got Robleski and Tanner Scott as 5th and 6th potentially left-handed relievers. Real quick, Scott, is Robleski in the playoff roster mix for you?
I feel like yes, okay. Easily.
Bruce, same thing.
He's a good pitcher, and I would have a hard time leaving him off, matchups or not. Like he's a guy that you think you can feel some level of confidence in pitching to anybody.
Yeah, I'm with you. And look, what he did the other day on it's just standing alone. That's the recruiting tape he sends to Andrew Friedman. And he says, do you remember this when you needed 3 outs and there was a runner on second and we needed this one bad to stop the slide? Let's go. Last question, Duff time. How much would Jeff pay to watch 22 get the last out of the World Series? $1 less than the amount my wife would say she would divorce me for, I think is the number. So whatever that line is, $1 less than that, I'm in. Scott, we starting to GoFundMe for this one here?
To send you out to watch it through the World Series.
No, I don't even need to watch. Just from my couch. Just the fact that like Kershaw gets the final out of the World Series.
Just to make it happen in the world.
Oh man. Just to how much could we leverage to Guggenheim to say, hey, push the button. This has to happen. Clayton Kershaw, final out. Let's fast forward here. You're up 5 runs, Jeff. Nobody on, nothing. Just go out there. Dave Roberts, pat on the fanny, Vesia. Thank you. Hand the ball to 22. Slow run from the bullpen.
Hopefully it's like a 10-0 game too. I want no stress or leverage in this situation for the record. I want 10-0. Kershaw's just coming in for a victory lap. A lesser host at this point, Bruce, would like say they'd get a tattoo or something if this were to happen. I'm not going to say that. I want the record to show. A lesser host would say that, not me. But there are lots of things that I would be willing to sacrifice in my life to see this happen.
Hey, but if it was a close game, it would hurt more in the moment. But then after the fact, if you close it out, it would make it an even better story to tell.
Forever, the reputation would be forever repaired.
Yeah. And can we also add to this scenario here that it happens at home? Because it's been a long time since the Dodgers won a World Series at Dodger Stadium. So in this perfect world, I would like it to be at Dodger Stadium too.
I was just going to say, don't get greedy. We're talking about Kershaw getting the final out. So I think we've moved past greedy. I think it's fair to ask for that. So folks, we appreciate you all hopping in with us on a Thursday afternoon, to talk about the Dodgers clinching the National League West again, 4th straight year, 12 of the last 13, 40th time in franchise history. It is the 12th consecutive full season they have won at least 90 games, which in and of itself is impressive, even if 90 in 2025 isn't the number you were hoping for. Check out the Dodger Blue 1958 YouTube page right here as soon as we're done. Matt Moreno in the clubhouse, getting soaked with champagne, hopefully doing a little bit of a slip and slide or something as well. So we'll have tons of content up here, DodgerBlue.com. We'll have full coverage of that, as well as the series throughout Seattle and into the wild card. We will be ramping up our coverage once the postseason starts. So Sunday night, Anthony and I will be back for our final regular season one of these, and then you can expect post-game coverage every single time the Dodgers have a postseason game. for the next, hopefully, month and a half. So we appreciate that. Lance Brozdowski interview will be right here tomorrow. Scott, you'll be live tomorrow morning as well?
We're live, Jeff. We are live and Unplugged Monday through Friday, buddy. It's only going to get better going throughout the postseason.
So there you go. 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Scott will be live on this channel as well. So we appreciate everybody for hopping in. Again, Dodgers NL West champs. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. As always, go Dodgers. And heading into the postseason, remind yourself, still freaking champs.